All right, we'll welcome everyone to City Council meeting this evening. On Wednesday, September 18th, 2024, we'll begin with an invocation by Councilman Carlson and led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Councilman Garrett.
Our Father in heaven, as we come before thee this time, we are grateful and thankful for the blessings that we enjoy. Thankful to reside in this city, for the residents here, for the infrastructure, and for the beautiful place that it is. And we ask as we discuss and talk about in our city that we may be guided to do those things which are right and proper for its growth and for the city members. We also pray for the world and the challenges that exist and the difficulties and the heartaches that exist, that they might be tempered. These things we ask in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Everyone will please stand and join us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
No Jeremy Millett? Okay. All right, we'll begin now with our public forum. We have two individuals who signed up to speak to us in public forum, Caitlin Kerr and Dan Gardner. Caitlin, if you'd like to come up, state your name for the record.
Caitlin Kerr, thank you. I'm here tonight mostly to observe the discussion at the end of the meeting about adjusting possibly the minimum lot size requirement for ADUs in the city. My father-in-law surprised us and came about a month ago, I believe, to bring this topic up, but I just wanted to introduce myself and give our story. My husband Ethan, who's not here tonight, and I are new residents as of June of this year when our home in the Salisbury Mapleton Village community was finished. And we've loved living here. It's amazing. I'm from Texas, so I never knew about Mapleton, but this feels like home.
Congratulations and welcome.
Thank you. We were told and we were planning on renting out a basement to make our home a little bit more affordable. But when we applied, our accessory apartment permit was denied because our lot is 5,329 square feet and the minimum is currently 6,000. Even though we have proper windows of egress, an exterior side entrance, and a separate parking space that's 9 feet by 18 feet. So I'm hoping that this will be discussed, and so that we can hopefully do this. It would be a big blessing for us. My husband's only been home for about 3 weeks since the home was finished because he does out-of-state door-to-door sales, and he's had to work a little bit more than we were planning, just to make things a little more comfy for us because we weren't planning on paying so much for a mortgage right off the bat. But thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to hearing the discussion.
Thanks, Caitlin. You're following.
Is it okay if I ask a question?
Very nice. Yeah, good.
Sorry, can you remind me, your mother-in-law, she's not moving in right away, it's further down the road, right?
Further, so that's like...
You're good.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's way down the road if my parents get divorced. I wanted to give her a separate place to stay. Yeah,
Okay.
thanks.
Thanks.
Might specify, she doesn't need an ADU for a mother-in-law, does she?
Right.
I mean, so it's not necessary.
I think the idea is that they want to rent it now and then have that as an option.
I see.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Caitlin. All right, Dan.
I don't have anything. I thought that was I signed up because I saw a sign. I thought it was like a sign-in sheet. I wanted to be known. I was here.
But Dan Gardner is here.
I'm
Hey,
doing my civic duty.
it's on record. It's
Oh,
written.
good.
No one can
Read
say.
it into the minutes.
I'm gonna ask TJ tonight, did Dan show up or not? It's on record.
Very, very good.
That's
Yeah,
right.
I appreciate. I'm interested. Yeah, I'm interested in hearing the discussion about the underutilized rights of way.
Okay, great.
That's. Yeah, I don't have anything.
Okay, great. All right, we'll move forward then on the consent agenda. We have 3 items on the consent agenda. We'll look for a motion or if anybody has a question.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Jones, a second by Councilman Beck.
Carlson, yes.
Egbert, yes.
Beck, yes.
Jones, yes.
Garrett, yes.
All right, item number 4 is review of the Mapleton City Survey, including presenting the data and the implications of the findings. And we're going to go,
We
Corey's
actually
not
had
here.
Ron.
They
We
put me
just
over
had
here.
Ron take
Take us
Corey's
away,
spot.
Ron.
Yeah.
You two look similar. I looked away, I had to double take. I'm just kidding, just kidding.
Corey's not gonna have his seat back when he gets back.
I've got the same haircut.
That's right, you guys go to the same barber.
Okay, today we'll be presenting the results of the survey that we did recently with the city. We did the survey from July 31st to August 23rd, so a little over 3+ weeks that we had it out in the field. We got 1,133 completed responses, so it was a really good response rate. Any number you see is plus or minus 3% statistical margin of error, so everything's pretty, whenever you see a difference and it's more than 3%, then you can count on that being statistical. So that's pretty good. The purpose of the survey was to explore building a community center, and really it was to find out what elements inside and outside would be appealing to residents, prioritize them, and then also just to find out their support of it in general. Do they support this, and are they willing even to help fund it? And so that was the purpose of the survey. We worked with a good group who was very collaborative, and I thought we got to a good place. We asked people where they lived. And on this map, you can see we just kind of broke it down Maple and on Main. And we got very good representation throughout the city. You're able really to be able to see what people in Area 1 or Area 2 or 3 or 4 think about any question. So we have that in here. If you wish, by the way, they pretty much feel the same across the areas, so there's not really much of an issue there, but you can. And you can look and see what it is. So the areas are well represented. Area 3, I guess, is a little bit smaller, and it just has fewer. But on the other hand, I know there's quite a bit of building over there, so you have good representation in all the areas. Even Area 3 at 17% has a lot of people in it who responded to the survey. Also, you got very good representation across age groups. Your sweet spot is the 40 to 49 year group, but you have a lot of people 30 to 39 and people who are older. So you have a good representation across age groups. We got more females than males answering, and you know that's just always the case. Like it's usually 60-40, you beat the odds. And so you came in at 57% female and 42% males, so you did okay. Most of them do have children in the household, so just something to be aware of. Also, how long have you lived in the city? We have a lot of people who've been here a long time and a lot of people who haven't been here so long. So 27% have been here 20 years or longer, but still 1 to 4 years or less than 1 year, that's a lot of people. You have 23% in that group. So you have good representation of newcomers and old people who've been here a long time. Most people are own their home. And the incomes, we asked, they're pretty spread out, but they skew to the pretty high wealth group, you know, here, which you know your demographics anyway. And so good demographics. All right. This particular survey had a lot of pictures, images in it, which helped us. So a picture is worth 1,000 words, and it's true in this case. People can envision at least what you're talking about. You say we'd like to build a community center. Here they can see, you know, it's not huge. Yeah, medium-sized, right? And they get that idea. And so we introduced the idea of a community center and asked people what they thought about it. Then we showed them images and pictures of things that could be indoors. An EA Sports arena, a hangout area for teens, an indoor playground, a walking track, a maker space, a ninja warrior course, a climbing wall, a senior center. So all those things were in here. And we asked them to prioritize by selecting the ones that were most. Now, we didn't show a picture of a library because we already have a library, so we didn't really show them a library. But you can see the order. And the library came off huge with a lot of support for a larger library with more services, an indoor walking track, a fitness center. Senior center came off pretty good, and an indoor playground. So, you know, the priority order. If you want to have other things, pickleball court didn't do so hot in this case indoor, although somebody wrote it in. EA Sports Arena, the lowest. So you can see, like, it really does help you see the priority. And as you consider this in the future, you'll have a good prioritization that will be useful to you. We next asked about outdoor features, an outdoor event space, a children's market, a heated greenhouse, an outdoor miniature golf course, outdoor skating rink or ribbon, and then rooftop amenities and a splash pad. So those were the pictures we showed. We allowed them to write in something if they wished, and some people at the very bottom wrote in skate park, community garden. Oh no, the community garden was there, and playground. But the splash pad was a big hit. The biggest one, the splash pad, and also the ice ribbon or the outdoor skating rink. That was pretty big. And that would be a little bit more difficult to maintain, but we said ice skating in the winter and roller skating in the summer. And the outdoor miniature golf course came in okay, as did the outdoor event space. But the rooftop amenities, lower, the heated greenhouse, lower, but some people like those, of course. We showed them the list of everything, and we asked them to help us prioritize. We said, here are the indoor and the outdoor items that you selected. So they went through the list, they picked the ones that they cared about, and then we said, which ones would you like the city to prioritize? And then they picked their number one, then we said, here are the remaining ones, what's your number two? And so on the left is the number one, on the right is the one and the twos combined. And it's kind of helpful, I think, to look at the ones and twos combined, everybody's top two choices. And the library is very strongly supportive, as is the splash pad and the fitness center and the indoor walking track. And the ice skating or ice ribbon came off really high. And then things fall off quite a bit from that. The senior center's a bit lower, but still quite rather high. So anyway, as you're considering this for the future, you'll definitely have the residents' feelings about it. On this page, and by the way, I think you'll get the link soon. I don't know that you have it yet. And so as soon as that's provided to you, you can enjoy this. But on this page, it's kind of fun because you can say, well, I'd like to see what are the priorities by age. And so I clicked on it by age, and you can see younger people and younger families really did care about the library. It drops off a little bit when they're older, as would be expected. You get pretty good support for the splash pad. So you can kind of go through these things and see what people care about. But in general, I'll be honest with you, except for the obvious things, where the senior center was preferred by seniors and so forth. But aside from the obvious things, like there's a lot of general support for most of these things that's pretty consistent. And the ones that are different, you go, well, yeah, that makes sense to me because older people tend to prefer senior centers and younger people tend to prefer splash pads, right? And so those things are pretty clear.
Can I make one comment in that regard?
Grab your mic, Reed.
I think a lot of the seniors, or at least most of the participants, thought that they could keep the gym downstairs, so this would be in addition to what they had instead of this being gone and not having one.
Well, I think in the survey, we made it pretty clear that it was moving out of here, as I recall.
Anyway, I think I had that impression from some feedback I've had anyway.
There might have been some who thought that, but I think the very opening made it clear that, like, you were at capacity here and some things had to change and that the senior center would be moved. So that was the way it was phrased, but people could have been confused. Alrighty. Now, one of the things you may be interested in is what did people say? And so for the library, for the splash pad, for the fitness center, we have a pretty good summary of their comments here. And if you'd like to read through that, you can find out why people felt the fitness center would be a great idea or why an indoor walking track is a good idea. And you might want to browse through the comment summary here. But we actually have the real comments later on, so you can do both. But we have a summary there that it's useful. Why did you prioritize that? And then what are some possible activities that you'd like to do in the community center if we did it? Organized fitness programs like yoga, Pilates, et cetera. Pickleball was high, cardio fitness was high, so you can see the order. Some things that were lower weights, in general, didn't do so well here, dance and ballet. But there are a lot of things that did really well. And in general, I think there was just a lot of desire for, classes and activities that would be fun, organized activities and so forth. So that came off very high. Now, when would people use it? The use time would be primarily in the evening and the mornings, less in the afternoons and midday. So that's clear. Also, who would use it? Most people said I would. My spouse would, and a lot of people did say children would use it. And if they were children, they were primarily younger children. And then this last question in the middle is important. We said, which of these sharing options do you feel would be best for these spaces in the community center? This was asked of seniors. So if they happen to be older, we asked them, should it be open to all day long, or seniors only from the morning until 11, and then others could join after 11? Or all adults from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., but family time in the evenings? And these seniors, they went like, let's make it available to all, and there wasn't really I think the seniors wanted a devoted place, but they didn't want to exclude everybody from everything else in the building. And so they were quite willing, in general, there are some, I think, who would like it to be seniors only, but the majority didn't go that route. So the seniors were quite supportive. And I just thought that was a good thing to know what they felt about that. What would you like in the library? A larger collection of books, a children's area that is larger and better, a larger collection of online audiobooks, and then it comes off from that. But there is lending enhancements like 3D printers and tools and sewing machines, and just making sure that it's a community hub and a gathering place. As we program the library for children and teens, we said as we consider family programming for children and teens, which 3 options below should the city prioritize? And so you can see the prioritization of these. And children's story time, the summer reading programs, the makerspace activities came right up. Tutoring and literacy help and so forth. So those came off really well. As far as adults, as we consider programming for adults, which ones should we consider? And we have health and well-being, gardening and homesteading, makerspace activities. So we got makerspace on both sides, and then art classes, and then it drops off a little bit. There are people who say none of these, 18%, or 19%. Some people say we don't care about this, but that's not generally the case. Over 80%. Think that some of these things are a great idea, and they're very supportive. Now, I'm getting to the one that you probably are very interested in. Would people support this with their wallets? Okay, we asked this in 2 ways. On the left, we said, what is your recommendation as they consider a new community center? And we said, go giant. Create a state-of-the-art facility was the top one, or go big, something special for Mapleton. We said a $30 million facility, and then be cautious. Create adequate improvements, a $15 million facility, and then we said keep Mapleton as it is now, no improvements here, right? And so it was pretty supportive when you look at it. So 74% picked, yeah, I would like to do something nice. There are the 26% who are a little less willing, but you have a clear majority who wanted something. Then we put money to it. And this calculation, we said an average home is $700,000. We divided it by the amount of money that would be required that is shown here, like the 75 million or the 35 million. We divided by the number of homes, and then we did it for a 5-year period, correct? I think we did it for a 5-year period. So over a 5-year period, this is what we need to collect in order to do this. And so if they went giant, we said it'd be a $75 property tax increase per month, or if they went big, it was a $35 increase per month, or if they went cautious, it was $17.50. And some people dropped out, right? They were less interested then. But 60% were interested in something, right? They would go either low, middle, some went high. And so I don't know how big you're planning to go, but for certainly the more cautious one, you have 60% going for it. And maybe you go somewhere in between and you have something. But, you know, the support was generally pretty good. I have seen other cities where we didn't get this much support. So this is pretty supportive. And by and large, you don't even have final plans. You know, we don't even have what it exactly will be at this stage, just a bunch of ideas that were put in front of people, and you got pretty good support. So I think you can feel good about that in general. Of course, there are those who are concerned about any additional increase, and I understand that. But it came off better than a lot might. And I'm going to just pause there for questions, Q&A, and see if I
Great.
can
One of
help
the
in
things,
any way.
one of the things I wanted to reemphasize, Ron, was that in this process, you know, I don't know how many people we have watching or who's going to watch it later, but I'll say this for the record, is that when you think of a community center, some people think of a rec center. Well, you automatically think of Springville and the $70, $80 million one that Spanish Fork's doing. The challenge that we have in Mapleton is that with the growth that we have, this building is at capacity and beyond. And so we've got to have more capacity, hence the reason we're building the Parks and Rec building in the back. We've got room for a future expansion with that, with fiber and whatever else. And then, you know, this building we're talking about, it's not just going to be a skating rink or an ice rink or a playground or something like that. It's a building to house what we need from an administrative standpoint to get the city what we need for long-term. And if we can add some amenities to it, great, what would they be? And that was the purpose here, is to try and figure out what direction we're going with what. Because we don't, like you said, not only do we not have final plans, we don't have plans. We have nothing, right? So this is what we're going with to try and get an idea of what direction we go or start going to. So anyway.
Yeah, this was actually a big fishing expedition in a way, that we had a lot of ideas, but we had no concrete direction. And this gives you the prioritization that you need in order to make plans. You know, and you don't have to do everything citizens thought of here, but you know what their priorities are, and you can build something that will do a good job.
I want to underscore what the mayor has said. This didn't just come out of somebody's idea to have a great big fancy community center because it would be fun in our city. This has been a challenge that we have been discussing internally for the last few years in regards to our physical facility needs in the city, and it's an evolution. And the process that we are participating in right now is a very iterative process. It's a problem-solving design process, and it evolves and changes and morphs as we collect feedback. And so I appreciate Ron's involvement and also the mayor leading out on how to tackle a problem we've got to solve one way or another. How we do that is very much to be determined.
I might say one thing that's important is we didn't know how much support we would have, and this certainly gives it to us so we know kind of what to do now, because without it, we would just be a wild guess, and we
Yeah,
don't
you
want
have pretty good
overdo,
support.
and we don't want to underdo. Is a sweet spot we're looking for.
I think as long as you don't go overboard, you have good support, right? As long as you go thoughtful, you have good support.
That's what it looks like, for sure.
Yeah.
Ron, thanks for the survey and all the thought put into it and for presenting the results. I'm curious with the summary of comments, are there comments for the none of these as well, or were they all just for the features that were listed?
We have comments for the none of these, and
You have a summary of those somewhere.
yeah, I have a summary of them, and then I have the actual comments. But maybe I need to turn a comment box on from the back side because I have them all, and they're all ready.
I've seen them. You got them somewhere there.
Yeah.
When you hit the drop down, it showed.
But we had
by
the
feet.
priorities, we had the summary of comments. I'm just a little, because I thought we had them all too.
And Ron, after tonight's meeting, how much of this survey will be available and accessible to the public?
So you can make it public, totally public, in my view, and I would recommend you do. I don't think there's anything here to be hiding. I think that everything here should be out in the public, and I think it would let people know, because some people will say, I was against it, or I didn't want to fund it, and they'll go, oh, but 60% were for it. And they can know that, right? It's just a helpful thing to know that across the board, it's not perfect support, but broad support in general, and so I think I would get it out there. So the link that I provided to Corey, like that link can be posted on
They
your
can
website.
access all of the comments, all of that stuff.
Mhm.
Perfect.
And I don't think there's anything, I've been through all the comments. There's no comments that you should be ashamed of to have out there, in my
No.
view, right?
No.
They're
We
just,
don't want to hide anything. I just wasn't sure
Yeah.
how accessible that could be made to.
and we always do the check, for words that shouldn't be said or whatever. We always make sure, and you just kind of clean them up. But you can leave the comments sometimes, or sometimes you just remove some because they shouldn't be saying things like that. But in this case, there weren't any. Like, that's just not the way it was.
Can you speak to a minute, or for just a moment, about how you have aggregated things and cleaned it up, so to speak? And what I mean by that is, what if somebody sits at their computer and fills out 25 responses?
Yeah, well, we can tell. So we can tell if one person has been abusing the system. So, and I check for that always. So we go to their IP address, we look at how many responses there are. And sometimes you'll find like 10 or 15 for somebody. In this case, we rarely got that. We had like some 5 or 6, and I checked them. And it could be a care center, it could be a library, it could be whatever, right, where somebody took it. But in this case, they were all fine. Like, I didn't remove any for that reason, because of a cheater. But I checked. I checked, and so you don't have anybody, unless they ran around using a whole bunch of different devices, but then out of 1,000 people, one person's not gonna make
Right.
much headway. So we were fine.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Ron?
So just double checking, you'll be able to add in the comments for none of these at some point?
It'll be available, and so I will make sure, well, so that we just had a comment at the end. Do you have any final comments? And so we'll have that available. And I'm surprised that I didn't have it available right here. But I'll make sure of that, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Tonight. Tonight. We distributed this, just out of your curiosity, a variety of ways. Many people took it from email, or the newsletter, or signs that were about, or social media, or the website. And the average time, it was an 11-minute survey. So it came in that's just about perfect. We had hoped for a 10-minute survey.
And Ron, tell us about, what would we expect out of the response of a survey to be excellent response?
You mean a good response rate?
A good response rate?
Do you know, if we can get about 10% of your adult population, that's pretty normal. And any idea what your adult population is here?
4,000, so we got 3 times
7,500,
before.
Madison said
7,500.
We got 2 times, well, not quite 2 times our adult population, but.
Yeah, so you did good. You did good. You're almost 15%, right? And so you're better than most cities. So you got a good response rate. And you think about that, 15% of your adult population participated. That's pretty good. You don't get more than that in most places. Anyway, it's a pleasure to work with you all.
No, I just want to express the same that's been expressed. Thanks for putting all the time and effort into this. This is good data.
Yeah, it's very solid. I think you can rely on it completely and feel good about it.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thanks, Ron. Appreciate you being here and explaining that to us, and we'll get that out so everybody can study it and bring questions back. All right, that was just a presentation, so we'll move on to our action item number 5. Ron, you want to go? You're welcome to. Item number 5 is consideration of a resolution adopting a policy regarding the potential vacation of unnecessary or underutilized rights-of-way. Mr. Conroy.
All right, Mayor and Council, thank you. We've discussed this, we had a discussion item on this not too long ago. The issue is occasionally we have property owners that come to the city expressing some interest to pick up right-of-way that's either underutilized or just unused. This typically occurs in the older part of town where you have a fairly narrow road with a wide right-of-way where no curb gutter or sidewalk were improved. Those are primarily the areas that we're talking about here. And so what we wanted to do is just consider a policy so that there's some basic criteria, so when somebody does approach the council, that you have something to at least be the beginning point of a discussion. A policy is not binding, so this is meant to be guidelines. You know, if an application comes forward, the council can consider it however they choose to, but it's just a kind of a starting point to kind of help focus the council's discussion. These are kind of examples of what you see around town in some of the older parts of town where the road is narrow, the right-of-way is quite a bit wider. These are the areas that we would anticipate people, or where we've had people ask about potentially obtaining some of that right-of-way. The process that we've outlined in the policy would be an applicant would make an application, the Development Review Committee would review it, and then there would be a public hearing with the City Council. If the council approved it, the law requires us to receive adequate consideration. We have to receive something for public land. There really is no formula for saying how much we could require, so this is part of the topic you can discuss tonight. We suggested about $10,000. It's a pretty low amount. If you think of a lot that's 200 feet wide, that has a 10-foot right-of-way that could be deeded back to them, you're talking $500 or $600, so not a big amount. Part of the reason we set it low is because we're recommending that it not just happen for one property, but it happen for, consistent through a block. And so to keep the price low so that it's not a barrier if a group wants to do it and one person is concerned because of the price. And then the applicant would be responsible to pay for the preparation of the deeds or any amended plats and the recording fees. The criteria that we consider, for the council to consider would be, is it truly excessive right-of-way? Is it property we don't think we will need for road widening or other curb gutter, sidewalk, or other improvements would be the primary consideration. The property owners would need to be abutting it, so you couldn't obviously sell it to someone who wasn't abutting the property to combine it to their parcel. And then something that staff thinks is important is we think it's important to keep the right-of-way consistent so that we wouldn't consider granting it to one property if properties along the same street are not requesting it. To avoid having kind of a zigzagged right-of-way line we think is important. That's really what we're here to discuss. The council can discuss it and adopt this tonight. You can certainly continue it if you have more comments or want to discuss it more in the future. This is not something that has to be voted on tonight, but we just brought it back to kind of see where the council's position is on it. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions if there's any from the council.
One question I had, if it was continued, could it be a public hearing item at some point?
Yeah, that's really up to the city council if you want to have it as a public hearing, absolutely. A public hearing isn't required because you're adopting a policy. It's not a law or a change to an ordinance. But if you want to have public comment on it, absolutely. That's something the council can request.
You mentioned that you'd seen a few people reach out inquiring about this and interest in it, not listing their names, but what areas of town are they residing?
The pictures that we showed.
Those are the actual properties?
Two of the three, yeah.
Okay.
Not the actual properties, but the area.
Area, okay.
In the policy, there's a 5-foot barrier that was included in it, and so if you went to the pictures, I guess, the right-of-way, instead of going up to the fence there, it would just 5 feet, and width in addition to the road, basically.
Yeah, the concern is we didn't want to grant property all the way to the edge of the road and have fencing or other obstacles that could impact traffic or be unsafe. So our recommendation, the baseline would be 5 feet. We would look at these case by case, but that would be kind of the baseline, is that we wouldn't want to go any closer than that.
Okay, so in this picture on the lower picture, that's what, 10 feet, 8 feet? What would you estimate that be?
It's probably at least 10.
So they could theoretically move that fence
Halfway.
5 feet closer to the road,
Mhm.
but there would still be a setback.
Or park a car there.
Are there buried utilities in that area?
There very well could be on these, and that's what the DRC would look at is, if there are utilities, we would certainly want to ensure that there's a public utility easement recorded if the property was given back. But yes, all those things is what we would have to evaluate if an application came forward.
So if one of these property owners wanted to purchase their right-of-way, they get with their neighbors, and when they have an entire block full of properties, is that when they would make that application? Is that what your recommendation would be?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
From corner to corner?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, in some cases, it may only be 2 or 3 properties. In other cases, it may be a few more.
On these big lots,
Mhm.
certainly, just a few.
And it sounds like requiring still somewhat of close to a 5-foot right-of-way in there for future edging or whatever of the road.
Yeah,
We're still going to have the same look, basically, just going to be less of it.
correct.
If
Well-
a person chose to move the fence.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah.
Of those you've spoken to, what's the desired outcome of the citizen? Is it related to maintenance? Is it related to lot size and the opportunity to split a lot if they acquire a little bit more? Like, what's the why for citizens who are reaching out?
Primarily that we've heard is that they just want to be able to maintain it and have the pride of ownership. We have had one that talked about, hey, if I added this, would that allow it to be subdivided? So I think those are things you want to look at when an application is put forward is, are there other implications to granting it that you'd want to be aware
But
of?
they know, Sean, if someone contacts you, you let them know they can maintain that piece, whether it's in the right of way or not.
Correct,
Right? We're not gonna go out there and tear their piece sprinkler pipe up.
right.
They're clear on that. You've let them
Yep.
know.
Which
They
I think
sometimes
is-
expect the city, though, to take care of it, right? And so is there a disconnect there? I mean, I guess I don't understand why they always assume that the city should do it. I mean, I know it's our property, but
Yeah.
in other cities, it's also expected that citizens take care of the strip in front of them or the right-of-way in front of them.
We rarely, if ever, have been called out to maintain a right-of-way. You know, in the older parts of town like this, I mean, that's how it's looked for 30 or 40 years, and it's kind of the expectation.
And these examples, you can see there is some maintenance going on as well. I mean, there's not overgrowth, there's not, especially in the upper right, and then the lower and the upper left, they've clearly maintained it's not.
Yeah,
Jessica, I
these-
just want to eliminate the excuse of, oh,
Yeah,
it's right
yeah.
away, so I don't do anything with it.
Yeah,
That's
please do.
silly.
What we're
Please
not,
do
what we're not
maintain
able to see are the millions of go-aheads, though, that are puncturing tires.
Yes.
It's true.
And that is
Our
what people
official
can
state plan, or our
explain.
city plan.
Mm.
Which I think is a
interesting.
separate issue. I mean, we're still going to have a section there that's going to be city-owned. And I think, at least where I grew up, this was normal edging of everybody's properties. And everybody just assumed, hey, this is my civic duty to just make sure my land and all the land abutting the street looks decent, right? And it's just kind of our neighborly responsibility. I think most people, I would say a very high percentage of people that live in town feel that way. I do think that the stickers and other issues that are a public nuisance definitely need to be addressed, but I think we don't necessarily have to sell land in order to do that. So.
Yeah, I think for us, that this is not something the city is actively wanting to go out and get rid of these rights of way. This was just to respond to when we do get requests, or if a request comes to the council, that you have some starting point.
I don't, I don't see a huge problem that needs to be fixed. I also consider, you know, a lot of these strips open space, which is hard enough for the city to get and what citizens all want. And so I'm not inclined to support a change in policy.
Okay, anybody else?
This one's really interesting to me because I feel like I can go either way, because on one hand, the policy really has no teeth in it. It would be a case-by-case basis, and the requirements would prevent some of my concerns, like having the jagged edges or lack of continuity. And, you know, if it's helpful for our staff to create efficient operations so they know what to do in this request, then I value that opportunity to give them. That still preserves our ability to make a good decision for the community and its planning. and yet I also don't know that I'm compelled to say this is an essential policy change. However, it's not an ordinance, it's not a law, it's sort of like, okay, someone's interested, so here's the process. So I'm not even, yeah, I can easily go both ways on this
Yeah,
one.
I totally agree. If it gives guidelines for future requests and helps keep things simple and consistent, then I'm all for it.
Is it, and I don't want to be overly prescriptive at all, I think this is guidelines, but is there a place to have overly prescriptive language? You've addressed my main concern is the one that you've just mentioned, is I don't want this to be permitted. This enlarges a property so much that it, by size, could be subdivided,
Amen.
but by zone, it's not, right? I want that to be that is not an option. I don't know if in creating guidelines, there's a place for, in no case will this be considered if, I don't know, I'm asking for your guidance on that.
Yeah, I mean, that certainly could be the council's prerogative when they approve, if they approve a request.
Just on
is
a case by case.
That it would not be allowing it to be subdivided.
It wouldn't supersede the zoning any way. I think we'd be okay to,
As long as we
there
are
cases,
covered on
though,
that,
where-
I just don't want to, I want to be, well, that's my opinion, crystal
Yeah.
clear, that should never come into
Yeah.
play.
I agree. I think there are cases where there are properties that are borderline on that 5-acre, 10-acre, whatever it takes to get one extra lot or one extra subdivision. And I think we need to make sure that it's clear that this is not us saying, hey, here's some guidelines, and it also gives a loophole for citizens to now subdivide their lot into more lots and get more higher density. So I think we're all clear on that. At least feels like we're all pretty on the same.
I don't know about that. If the zoning exists for a reason, and if someone acquires additional space that gives them, the 20 square foot they needed to subdivide within an appropriate zone, I don't know that it's for me to say you can't. If the zoning is appropriate.
If it's in the appropriate zone.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, the zoning should stand, but if it gives them the space they need within the appropriate zone or with the use of a TDR within the appropriate receiving zone, then I would be okay with that. That's kind of why I asked is yeah, if it's within the right zone, then it's really just simply following our own ordinances that already
Right.
exist.
I
So
agree with you. I'm just saying, I don't think I want to make sure the public understands that we're not considering this so that people can use it as a loophole to get higher density.
yeah, I don't think if we follow it to the intent, it doesn't create a loophole because the zoning would stay in place.
Right.
I'm still not sure what problem it solves. And Sean, I guess if there's only been a few cases in several years that's come to you where people have requested that, I don't know if that's a big problem to solve still.
Yeah, no, that's a legitimate stance. The only issue is if somebody does come in and say, hey, we want to offer you some money, or we want to acquire the right of way, we're bringing it to you, and there's just no even starting point for talking to a property owner, say, hey, this may be something that the council could support or not, and then when it comes to the council, you're having this discussion again.
I think based on that, even just thinking of how much each one of us have spent time talking about this and how much time he spent, that's probably going to make the argument to create an opportunity to increase efficiency, knowing that we have the opportunity to reject applications.
So the alternative would simply be, we have to have a policy where we will not consider seeding right away,
Either that, or
Right.
it just comes to you and you discuss it each time. And
each time, okay?
I mean, the likely scenario is if you don't have the policy, staff is still going to say, we think this is a good idea, or we think this is a bad idea for these reasons. So I could see it either way too there.
If there were council members that are supportive, I would suggest that we continue it so that others would have an opportunity to come and express their opinions. And I think I'm opposed to it, but I'm open to more discussion on it.
You mean like a
public hearing?
public hearing item?
If we have another discussion.
Well, I'm ready to make a motion to approve it, so I guess we've got two different opinions here.
That's right.
do it.
Is that a motion, Casey?
To continue it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to continue.
And I'll make a substitute motion to approve a resolution adopting a policy regarding the potential vacation of unnecessary or underutilized rights-of-way.
So we'd need to see if there's a second to
Oh, we have to
Casey's,
second that.
right?
Oh,
Second for
I got a
Casey.
little too, I got a
Vote
little
on
too
it.
eager. Sorry, Casey.
So what did you say again, Casey?
So if we were going to continue it, if we're considering adopting it, I don't think it hurts us to get more public opinion on it.
I don't either.
And that's why I would suggest that we continue to allow a public hearing on this item.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Councilman Beck and a second by Councilman Carlson.
Is this when I make a substitute motion or do
No,
we
you'd
vote on
roll
it?
call.
No, we have to vote.
We have to vote first,
first,
okay.
Egbert, no.
Beck, yes.
Jones, no.
Garrett, no.
Carlson, yes.
All right, so we're looking for another motion, then it doesn't pass.
I vote no just because I think we've reviewed it enough, and I think it's been discussed enough and gone through it enough. We either take it as the staff has put it together and put it in as policy and use it as guidelines, or we don't.
So you gonna make a motion?
I'll let Leslie make the motion.
I make a motion to approve a resolution adopting a policy regarding the potential vacation of unnecessary or underutilized rights-of-way.
As per the proposed
Oh, as per the
ordinance.
proposed
Ordinance.
ordinance.
Beck, no.
Hold on.
I'll
Could I have a
second. I'll
A
second.
second. We have a second by Councilman Garrett. We have a motion by Councilmember Jones.
Beck, no.
Jones, yes.
Garrett, yes.
Carlson, yes.
Egbert, yes.
All right. We'll move on. Item number 6 is another action item. Consideration of a resolution authorizing the Parks and Rec Department to purchase and install new security cameras within the facilities in the parks. Mr. Minor.
We're still friends, Casey, right?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. So as you recall, a couple months ago, I had just brought forth some concerns on vandalism and/or just lack of care in some of our facilities, specifically in our parks. And so at the time, we just kind of had a discussion on what our options were, and it was instructed to go back and find a solution, get some bids and/or some cost on what that would be. And so that's what we're here tonight to bring back, is what that cost would be. I will say, in working with our IT, they've been really good to help recommend the right system for us. We did install and currently have one down at Ira Allen. That was installed before Pioneer Days to help kind of, I mean, if we're gonna see something, there's 15,000 people to see if it's going to work, and it worked great. Phil and his team have been awesome to work with, and getting internet to our locations, I think that's a vital piece to this, is we're able to own and operate those systems independently and be able to have staff be able to help control connections with our own internet and then also with IT to be able to store the data. One thing on this too, just to make a note on, is this is not to record, this is to have a live footage so that if it was needed to go back, then we would be able to send that to our police, whoever it would be, to review footage to help find a solution to a problem. So the proposal would be one of the big areas that in working with our town square group, and we don't have anything there now other than a security system in the museum. And we have a lot of historic artifacts there that are irreplaceable. We cannot, we can't find those. They keep bringing in. And so this proposal would be able to put a system in town square, as well as all of the parks on the restroom facility, but then also kind of provides coverage elsewhere. 90% of our vandalism is within a facility, within the bathrooms. I mean, the things that we see, you can't make up. We've had trees planted in the toilet. We've had the playground caught on fire. I mean, it's literally anything and everything, and this would be a good deterrent, but then also just have that visual to maybe help deter some of those things. So if there's any questions, can answer them.
Logan's also growing very tired of getting my texts in the morning as I'm walking the dog. about the Harvest Park.
Yeah, sometimes they're comical, but it's probably true.
Yeah.
I think the nature of bringing security cameras in is the world we live in. And with the evidence of the vandalism, I think it's needed.
I think-
Totally. Oh, go ahead.
You go ahead.
A very supportive, wish we would have had them years ago, so thank you for bringing these forward to us and testing them out. Have we discussed the implications to our insurance coverage? I would assume it would decrease costs and liability related to that?
I haven't, but I'm sure that's something we could look into.
Yeah, I
and
would hope,
definitely see
especially
it
with the
would help.
museum, as we're insuring things, if we have an opportunity to figure things out and get things
Yeah.
back, that might be helpful.
Yeah, that's a great point. I can definitely make a note
Yeah.
and work with Camille on our insurance and see if there's some options there.
I think the underlying conversation we need to have tonight, this goes back to some of the concerns Chief Jackson has brought to us in terms of enforcement with the motor vehicles. Without our support as council to enforce the vandalism that takes place, we're wasting money on these cameras. And I want to publicly state my support to fully and aggressively pursue those who are deliberately creating problems, vandalizing and destroying public property, period. I don't care if kids are being kids. We didn't do that stuff when I was a kid. And if parents are upset with that, I think that we have an opportunity to be resolute in our commitment to preserve our public property and support our law enforcement. So I am very supportive of that. Can you get them in this week?
Well, to answer that question, no, and it's the same, the same problem that we have. Fiber can't deploy it fast enough, just like all residents want the internet. Getting it into the park is, so, well, they're working fast, they just, so.
Logan, I forget, for this amount, is there an RFP needed, or I guess was already one done, or is this just a?
No, it was just a working through with IT,
Okay.
yeah.
Done in-house.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution authorizing Parks and Rec to purchase and install new security cameras within facilities and parks.
Second.
Our motion by Councilmember Egbert and a second by Councilmember Jones.
Jones, yes.
Garrett, yes.
Carlson, yes.
Egbert, yes.
Heck, yes.
Great, we've got 2 discussion items. Thanks, Logan. The first one is consideration of a discussion to replace existing siren controller with a new siren controller. And Mr. Miner, take it away.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. So as you recall, we've had some conversations on this recently as well. Just to give a little bit more backstory, just to kind of refresh our memories on it. So 4 to 6 months ago, the siren was going off at random times. And so administration and staff at that time had decided to turn the siren off. We had said, okay, we're going to turn it off and kind of see what that response is. Really didn't have a lot of response. Then there was starting to get a little bit of feedback on some of our social media channels. Over the Pioneer Day timeframe, there was a little bit of traction of what happened to the siren, why is it turned off. And so from then, we brought it back, had another discussion with you as a council to just, get some feedback from you. And then it was decided to get some more information and bring it back. What were the implications of getting it fixed, what that cost would be, what that would lead to. So that's what we're here to discuss tonight is we did meet with a group to get replacement parts for it. One thing I do want to make sure is clear, the siren is still the existing siren. It's the backbone of the siren that needs to be replaced. So I just want to make sure that was clear, that if it was decided the siren stays, it would be the original siren. It would literally be the infrastructure behind it, the control module that would be replaced. That's the failing part.
So I just want to make sure that's clarified in your talking points. Number 1, it says $9,000 for a new siren, but that's just the
That's why I
control.
wanted to clarify that, because that is not a new siren. That is the parts to make the siren go off. So really, that's what we wanted to bring it to you. A couple of the questions are, if the siren stays, this is the cost. Are we willing to front that cost? And then if we do fix it, Is it back to every day at noon is what the expectation is? There was some ideas floated on, certain days of the week or during events. So really, it's just get some feedback and.
If we spend the $9,000 to fix it, is it in the right place, or do we need to move it to?
It's in the right place until that's not the right place.
Yeah,
I mean, so,
but if you move it, you won't be the expense is 9,000 again. You're spending 9,000 to
Be
make it
multiple.
work, you won't, no.
No, you can,
Be
you
the
can
price of a new pole
remove.
and moving the wire.
Yeah, that 9, just to clarify, that 9 is including the pole and the wiring and the controller.
That is no pole.
You're
No, it's
proud,
just fixing it
Okay.
to make it
That's-
work.
But we
Yeah.
definitely need a pole, so we gotta
Well,
add that in.
I don't know how soon we need a new pole. With this whole rework of the city park, I'm sure we're gonna be in the next 2 years of revamping the park, hopefully next summer or next fall, but you can do the new pole then when you decide where it goes.
Yeah,
The biggest thing is when we've been talking about this for too long, so we gotta make a decision. Like, I've had, I don't know, 4 meetings about this and I'm worn out because I'm like, I don't give a rip about the siren really, myself personally, but if it's part of our history and it's important to the city and it's important, which I just said, hey, I don't care what we do. If it's broken, it costs money to fix it, then don't fix it. Until we had a bunch of citizens reach out to us and I said, that was my first question to Corey is, what kind of feedback are we getting? And the only feedback we're getting is people reaching out saying, what happened to the siren? Can we please get it back on?
Right.
So,
So
That's-
for me,
that's-
with the two talking points, yes and yes. Do we want to budget 9,000? I say yes. And should it continue to go off daily at noon? I say daily at noon still.
I was indifferent until people started reaching out and, because I wanted to know if people really cared or not. And we had a group of people come out and, for it. So I said, all right, well,
Yeah.
sounds good. I
We
don't-
have a specific area of town who can hear the siren, and it's become this nostalgic, historic thing of significance that I didn't really understand. However, the majority of people in the community are not in that radius. I really struggle with a $9,000 replacement for an arbitrary device that doesn't serve its original purpose.
What if Noel cost 9,000? Would you fix it?
I'm not answering that. Don't set me up
You
like
kind of
that.
are with this one.
Yeah,
It's the same thing.
I think,
that brought joy to everyone who passed that road. Okay, I digress. So I'm not anti-siren. I'm anti-spending every citizen's tax dollar on a siren that doesn't serve that functional purpose. I would love to see this become a citizen-driven initiative to do a Save the Siren fundraise. If people are willing to donate $20 or whatever, and we turn this into a thing, I'd love to see people rally around that concept, but for me to budget $9,000 of our small funds that could be used for something else, I really struggle with that number when I believe that our citizens for whom this is important could help contribute to that. I'd love to see, the siren back so the people who it's been meaningful for can enjoy their noon siren or whatever it is. It's just, this is a conservative budget issue for me.
I think one point to what you brought up too, what the original intent of the siren and what it's being used for are two completely different things. Now, in doing that research and in that cost, there are options to be able to use it for emergency-related things. In talking with Chief Jackson, that's not something that is internally that we're, recommending but, that definitely to what it was installed for and what it are used for are two very separate things.
civil defense requirements are not there anymore for it, right?
What was that?
Civil defense requirements, I mean, that used to be what it was for, was to alert people of
Yeah, with
some imminent thing they had
reds
to
were
be
coming.
aware of.
Yeah, with the advance of technology and the cell phone to get,
iPhones.
an Amber Alert at the drop of a pin, yeah, it's
That's no
definitely,
longer there.
yeah.
I'm just not good with the preserving history part. I've admitted that you guys that before, and so I struggle with that part, and I'm just saying, I don't know if this is one of those things or it's not. If it's not, great, we move on. If it is, it's been explained to me that that's what, whether it is or it isn't, that's the perception that these people have, right? So we just have to decide, is it or isn't it, and move on. And it is a discussion item. We're not making a decision tonight.
Yeah,
but-
I think it is a historic thing. I just don't know if it's incumbent upon the city to pay $9,000.
So if they raise the money, you'd be for
Absolutely.
it going off at noon every day.
or part of the
In
money.
their
even if
neighborhood,
even if
yeah.
there's matching funds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want it in my neighborhood, but the people who are used to it, great. If I had a sleeping
You
baby,
can't
I
hear
would
it?
just die. I can outside, but not inside my house, yeah.
Theron, what's your thoughts?
I've talked to a lot of people, enough people that I support the $9,000 using taxpayer dollars. I think the citizenry would overwhelmingly vote for it, but I do love the idea of fundraising. I like that. If we could do a little bit of both, that would be awesome.
I'd
But
support
I
that.
support the idea of fixing it. I support the idea of running it. I'm indifferent to it every day. I think we at minimum should do it on holidays and special events and Pioneer Week and things like that. But I am supportive of doing it every day as well at noon.
Casey?
Yeah, I'm supportive of doing it every day.
Reed? Yeah.
It's a historical thing, it's kind of important, but it might be also nice to maybe have the citizens match those that
Yeah,
would like to.
we could do a fundraising match.
Very much a preservationist and a nostalgic historian. However, I'm very indifferent on the siren, but I am very supportive of things that build a community, and I would be very supportive of engaging those who want to have it to promote Save the Clock Tower if you want.
Yeah.
But I'm really indifferent either way.
Okay, good.
I really am.
So I know the perfect person to head up the fundraising, and should we say if they get 50%, then we'll pitch into the 50? Everybody supported that?
Yeah.
I like that.
Minimum?
I like that.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do
All
it.
right. We know who to talk to.
Okay,
Thanks, Logan.
thanks.
Item number 8 is another discussion item, consideration of a discussion item to review minimum lot size requirements for internal accessory apartments within the city. Mr. Conroy.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. As you recall at the last meeting, an individual came just expressing some interest in amending the code to allow for accessory apartments on smaller parcels. The property owner was here tonight and just mentioned some of the reasons why. The city absolutely is encouraging and supportive of ADUs. I think there are some implications to allowing them on smaller lots that the council just wants to make sure that you talk through and think through before we take any final action. The primary concern really is parking and just kind of congestion in these higher density areas. When you have lots that are 6,000 square feet or less, they're typically very narrow. You're talking 40, 50 feet wide. And where 20 feet of the front yard is already is driveway, if you add a parking pad, the majority of your front home is going to be vehicles parked. And also, some of the challenges, particularly in the Salisbury development, is that the parking pads don't have direct access from the street. You have to get onto the driveway and then onto the pad. I'll show some images. So this is the first phase of the Salisbury development. The townhomes do not qualify, and about 50 of the single family currently do not qualify. About 29 or 30 are 6,000 square feet or larger. So in this area, if you removed the minimum lot size, you'd have a potential increase of 50 or so additional accessory apartments. These are some images we included in the packet, right? If you have your parking for the ADU is on the parking pad, the reality is it's probably not going to be used all that often for the ADU parking, because as soon as you have one vehicle in the driveway, you can't access it, or you're blocking it. And so that's really our concern, is that these really are most likely going to spill out onto the street. There are areas, including this, I think, is the applicant's, or the individual that spoke tonight, their property, where they have a pad. A lot of the pads are right, they have these utility boxes in them. That's a little bit concerning too. It's almost guaranteed, whether there's ADUs or not, these are going to get hit. Where the individual that spoke tonight, they live on this street. There is some ability to have more off-street parking on this street than in other areas, because these units face another street. But it's just the idea of, if you add potentially 50 more ADUs in these areas, are you gonna create character impacts to the neighborhood, as well as just parking concerns? The other areas in town that could likely take advantage if we removed the minimum lot size would be the Harmony Ridge, which they're already going to be developing almost 1,000 units there. And Sunrise Ranch has some properties that could potentially do this, and then Whisper Rock, that's just off of Maple Street, could potentially have ADUs. So again, this is a discussion item to have you just provide us some guidance. If you want us to draft an ordinance, it would require public hearings with planning commission and city council. If you don't, then we would just keep the ordinance as is for now.
Okay. Thanks, Sean. Do we have any, this is just a discussion item, so similar to the last item. We just want to get your thoughts so we know how to proceed from here.
I made a comment a few weeks ago when we first heard this. I live at, and Sean can fact check me, I live at the high-density project in Mapleton that's been around for 20 years. And we have had, from the beginning of time, parking issues. As time has rolled on and we see more multi-generational families, or there are, or have been, a couple of basements that have been rented out, and we see how that compounds our narrow streets and our very, very, very narrow lots. So I was very clear in my feelings at our last meeting. I would not be supportive of a change. We cannot just spot zone and say, okay, this house gets to do it. So it changes the entire dynamic in many of the areas of our city. I don't believe that is helpful to the city as a whole. I am an advocate of and support accessory dwelling units. I think it's a fantastic opportunity for homeowners. I understand the importance of being a new homeowner. I work in that industry. I'm sorry that you were given erroneous information, but that's also the importance of fact-checking those things as well. So I would not be supportive of it in this area. The other piece to it here is there is the gravel side parking, so to speak. As Sean, I believe, mentioned, there's no curb cut to allow that out to the street. You've got but you often will have multiple drivers that are renting a basement, even if it's a young couple. Very likely there are multiple cars. So I would not be supportive of change.
Okay, thanks, Leslie. Anybody else?
I was very supportive of the changes made previously to lower the requirements for the lot size. And I know this council has made a lot of efforts to make it more affordable, make it so there's more affordable housing in the area. But like Leslie, I see problems with lowering it anymore. And just talking with several people in Maple Village, I know there's a lot of people opposed to that and worried about the parking situation, what that would do to already an area that's tight for parking. So I'm also not supportive of a change right now.
Okay, thanks, Casey.
I'm a big supporter of these auxiliary apartments. I've had one in my home for over 10 years. There's a number in our neighborhood that are going in, but I would say over my history and seeing what's going on in our neighborhood, at least 75% have 2 cars, which I think is probably how it may be across town or around, which means their parking is really a problem in a small area like that. So I'm not really very supportive either of lowering it.
I think it's important that we make a picture or paint a picture of the recent past. We used to have only ADUs allowed in certain zones, and we very, very heavily opened that up to every zone in the city, and we had to make a break point somewhere on square footage, and that's where we came to. I think that was a very big step for the city in supporting affordable housing and changes that are happening around us in our industry and in our communities. But I agree. I think we need to have a set boundary, and I think we've gone pretty far, and I'm uncomfortable changing it.
I'm in the same boat. While I'm really sympathetic to this situation, it's a bummer. I mean, part of me was like, could you fit a tandem one in there? Like, it's, I'm uncomfortable encroaching upon the property rights of so many citizens who have built houses around this community who are aware that they don't have ADUs on their lot or their neighbors' lots. And so to make a change for one, when I am compelled to protect the property rights of others it's not something I can do.
All right.
Got a quick question for Sean. Is the verbiage in the ordinance, is it just 6,000 square foot lot, or is there an accompanying lot width?
It's just
Frontage.
6,000, and it's just taken, that's what the state code mandates.
Oh, is it?
So we
Okay,
just reflect
okay.
that.
So the state code has it 6,000.
Correct. We were at third acre for a
Yes.
lot of the reasons we've discussed, and when the state said you've got to allow them, we changed it to allow them at 6,000. And the state may change that this year, and it may be that there are no restrictions, and that
Give it
may
a
be
year, you might
reality
end up okay.
for them in
Might
the near
end up-
future, as the state may continue to say cities can't be involved at all, and
We
if that's
might
the
end up with
case, then-
high-rise apartments in all of our backyards. Yeah.
So Reed, I think your third acres pretty much around your house, is that right?
Yes.
About
yeah,
30 acres?
Third
So
acre, third acre plus.
Yeah, I think that Theron makes a good point here where, you know, whenever we had accessory apartments designated to certain zones only, and now with what's going on, we've had to pull that back. And I'm sympathetic too, because you look at it and you're like, what's 700 square feet? Are you guys silly or what? Like, you're not gonna notice 700 feet, which you're right, you wouldn't. The challenge is at some point there has to be a threshold, and it just so happens it went to 6,000. And not thinking back in all reality with that situation on the screen, 6,000 might be way too low, because you're literally parking a bumper right up by their front porch, you know, in this scenario. And so, yeah, it's unfortunate because of the situation for sure, and it's hard because you want to be sympathetic. At the same time, I think this might be something we're looking at later too, to maybe go back and say 6,000 is too small. So anyway, that's the discussions we've been having to try and figure that out. And then you have two-car situation, 2 cars to the homeowner and 2 cars to someone else. That's where you get in the scenario. And Reed, you're mainly third acres and some bigger in your
Oh, yeah,
neighborhood.
yes, yeah.
And
Third
you can
acre
feel the
bigger.
impact in that, and you're on a cul-de-sac. And if you can feel the impact, then certainly on a straight road,
And you can more easily accommodate off-street parking with a third.
Yes,
Yeah.
I couldn't fill in my,
Well, I can guarantee this legislative session, we're not going to get an ability to require 2 parking stalls.
So
You
may
can
use-
assume we're not going to get that back.
yeah.
Someone may use the right of way now to do an ADU.
True.
Okay, well, that's good, that's important, we know that now, and Sean, you know the direction we're gonna go forward, and we wanna thank Caitlin and her father-in-law, they've been super kind and
thank you for
good
considering us
feedback and
anyway.
stuff.
Yeah,
All right, we'll go to administrative reports, let's start with, Chief.
Easy, 2 quick ones, 2 really quick ones. I texted Nick Glasgow earlier today, Chief Glasgow. He didn't have anything to report, but I'm going to report something for him. In July, we took over Hobble Creek Canyon, you remember? And we were going to monitor that and see how it goes. So we're into September, going awesome, good coverage. Coverage is staying in town too. At the year end, in the end of December, I'll have him give you some stats on how many calls have been up there, and fire and EMS, and break them down. But I'm pretty tickled with how that's going so far. And then on the police side, we had a little setback at the first of the year. You guys remember when Rebecca got hurt? She's back to work full-time, has been for a couple months, and now, this last week, finally got NICS all the way certified. The NICS was already drug certified, now she's apprehension certified. So I'm pretty certain Rebecca's gonna get called this month.
Let's use her down at Maverick this weekend.
Oh, boy. Can I change the road closed down there and enhance that a little bit out? Yeah.
Sounds like they may be doing a Friday night too, so maybe you'll have some help there.
Close the road. But Nix took first in her class for apprehension. She actually jumped out of a helicopter, did some apprehension work that way. So we're pretty proud of her. So she is fully 100% certified, and Jessica, Rebecca is back to work 100%. So we're past that little setback that we had. So I wanted to report that. So.
Good work, thanks, Chief. Madison? By the way, on your way up, thanks for all your help with the survey and getting the communication out and continually pushing it, and all the responses are a reflection of your hard work too, so thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been great to see those results and the numbers that came in with that. So I talked to Ron, and he said he'll make those updates that we discussed tonight, and then we will send the link out to all of you tomorrow. So you can dive deep into it. You can play with the filters he showed of, okay, how did my neighborhood answer this? Or how did these demographics answer these questions? And so that will lead to future conversations on the topic. I've also been working with Camille and Bryce on RAP tax information, and we have a voter information pamphlet. We're in the early stages of getting it printed and mailed and sent out to every household in Mapleton. So thanks for your feedback on that, and we'll keep you updated on when we expect that to hit mailboxes.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Madison. Okay, Logan.
Just quick update, Moonlight was this last weekend. It went awesome. We had 235 runners, so it's our most we've ever had. It was awesome. Didn't have hardly any issues, and grateful for all the volunteers and staff to put all their time and effort into it. It's always a long day, but at the end, the party's always fun and worth it, and cake tastes better at 12:30 for some reason, so. But it was really good, and it really does. You should come try it.
I was going to, I fell asleep.
Yeah, we were almost all asleep too, so. And then we're just wrapping up our fall swing of stuff. Soccer and football's been going really well. And then we'll go right into our winter with volleyball and basketball. And then we're also starting a new floorball program this year. We're partnering with the Utah Hockey Club to get some sponsorship for getting new gear for some hockey stuff. And so we'll be able to offer a different program when our littles are done playing basketball, but yet they still have that pent-up energy. We'll be able to offer a new program for them to maybe learn the ins and outs of hockey, and so we're excited for that.
Can you explain that just a little bit? It's on the floor?
Uh-huh.
Oh, just.
Yeah, so it's
okay.
floor ball, so they'll play it inside the schools. We put up a perimeter, honestly, it looks just like our Gaga pit. And then we partner with the Utah Hockey Club. They provide everything for us. All they request in return is obviously a little bit of marketing promotional material from their side. And then that we run a clinic or a league or something. So we've been working with the schools to make sure we're minimizing damage. That was one of our concerns, was just a hockey, ball flying everywhere, and it's a ball. Yeah, it is a ball. Yeah, I got corrected too. So that's why I'm very confident it's a ball.
Do these hockey sticks then, or
Yep.
brooms?
Yep, they're hockey sticks, they're plastic.
Yeah.
So really cool, really, kudos to Kyle for heading that out and finding some different opportunities for it, so, but, anyways, yeah, so lots of stuff happening, and then just a couple dates. October 12th is our Scarecrow, so put that in your calendars. We have a new youth division this year for our Harvest Bake Off, so we're excited to see what our kids can come up with baking. And then following the Scarecrow side of stuff, we'll have our free pumpkin night down at the cemetery, thanks to Jake Harward with Harward Farms. And then we'll have a line dancing at the park after that. So hope everybody can come.
So we are going to the cemetery for that
Yeah.
still?
Yep,
Okay. All right,
at least
great.
for one more year.
Okay.
For one more year?
Yep.
But that is subject to change at some point in the future.
It could be.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, Logan. Appreciate it. All right, Sean?
We have a pre-construction meeting tomorrow with LDS Church for their new building on 8th South. I know that impacts some of you more than others, but.
Not at all now.
No, none of you did. So anyway, that'll be starting soon. So pre-con tomorrow, but that's all.
Do you know, is it a stake center or is it a
Are you
ward-
gonna go
just a
there, or
ward
you don't
unit? Do you know?
They haven't listed it as a stake center, but I'm assuming that it is big enough to be one. It is bigger than the ones we've typically seen.
Okay, thanks, Sean. Appreciate it. Okay, Rob?
Okay, I've got a few project updates since we're getting towards the end of the construction season. Up the canyon, the canyon is closed starting today through the end of next week. It's the push to be able to get culverts in, get the road prepped, and then paving next week. There's going to be some things that are still going on at the chlorinator through October, and then we've got to have our inspections and everything done by the state for them to give us our operating permit. My best guess would be sometime mid-November is my best guess is when we'd actually have the water turned into the system, but we're just about done with that project. The next one we also have tonight is road closure at 16th South on the highway. To be able to make the connection for the PI project that's going there. Also, at least Friday night. So if everything goes well, they'll get everything connected tonight. They give themselves an extra day tomorrow night, where if everything goes well tonight, we won't be closed down tomorrow. If there's a little bit of work, maybe close down tomorrow, and then Friday they'll fulfill it. So potentially for the next 3 nights, so at least 2 of the 3 nights, it'll be closed down at night for night work. And then that project will be finished up by the end of next month. We also have the ADA ramp project is behind where we wanted it to be. We wanted to get it done over the summer so that it could be done for school. There were some things on the MAG side, federal requirements that they had to go through before they could give us the go-ahead to build, but that'll get started next week and is intended to be finished by the end of next month also. That's redoing the ADA ramps, and then we're putting some bulb outs to help the kids that are crossing, all the kids that are crossing 12th North in front of the Mapleton Junior High. And then the Carrot Canyon is also getting started, and will take somewhere in the month and a half range to get finished up. So kind of pushing to try to get everything done before it gets too cold.
Sounds good. When you fire it all up in April, make sure it all works.
Yep.
So, good. Thanks, Rob. Appreciate it. Reed?
I've been gone for a few weeks so I don't know. I
Okay.
think everything's okay, I would've heard.
No news, good news. Okay, thanks. Jessica?
Did anyone go to LPC? Did you?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lot of movement on what's going on with the league and with legislation, justice court, alcohol, proximity. Our biggest concern in Mapleton is usually the land use. One of the things that you're gonna see go back and forth this year is the amount of time to review plans. So one of the challenges as cities have pushed back is a lot of times we receive a plan that isn't complete and you have to send it back, and it goes back and forth, and then we were held hostage when we didn't receive a complete plan. And so now they're trying to define that and add clarity to give like 5 days for a completeness review and then 14 days for a building plan review. One of the challenges that came up this week was, what if it's this huge development? Is it held to a different standard? You know, a small city who gets a 1,200 unit development submitted, they
Like
have to
Salem?
follow the same timeline without stuff. So we'll see how that evolves, but yeah, there's a lot of pushback in there. Let me see if there are notes. We're going to see more about building inspections and licensing. The data came back that almost all cities, 100% of the ones the league surveyed get their inspections back within 3 business days. But there's feedback by some developers that is not true with the process. So you're going to continue to see feedback on proposals for developers to have their own inspectors. So watch it.
Like the box guarding the hen house?
Yes, it's the same stuff as last year. That got shut down, but it's gonna come back. So there might be some compromises with accountability. For example, if, almost like selection of a jury is what I'll liken it to, where cities agree on some inspectors, developers agree on some inspectors, and they go to the pot and they say these guys or women or whoever are trustworthy. So there might be a compromise there. There's some bonding issues and things, but lots of the big items are really gonna be about the land use, with zoning, parking, garages, overlays. Should there be a citywide or a statewide overlay that requires a mandatory amount of whatever is defined as affordable or high density? So a lot of the same stuff as last year. That's just kind of evolving, and there's some feistiness among cities that don't even, some feedback I've heard from the board level is that some cities are tired of compromising and want to fight more about it, and some want to continue to trying to find those balances. So expect a lively session.
Sounds good. Thanks, Jessica.
Sure.
Okay, Casey?
I don't think we've met since the public safety night, right? Well, it was really well done, so thank you for everything you did, Chief. And the NYCC, they were able to participate in that. Just want to give them a shout out. They really think outside of the box, and they wanted to put a plug in for mental health as part of public safety, and I thought that was really neat that they did that, and that was all them, so kudos to them.
Great, good job. All right, Leslie?
No report.
Theron?
I don't have anything.
All right, Camille? Corey's not here. We get to go home early.
That's right.
That's right. All right, we'll look for a motion to close with a second.
So moved.
Motion to close.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Egbert, and a second by Councilmember Jones. All in favor?
Garrett, yes.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Thanks, everybody.